Is it still a good idea to start an Etsy shop in 2023? Why, after 17 years, Etsy shut us down out of nowhere? We're gonna jump into all of that. I'm gonna walk you through our success. We were a bestseller on Etsy. We were OG, like with them basically the first year they ever even opened their doors. We were multiple bestseller, as well as making 6 figures a year with our business. So we were doing very, very well, and got shut down out of nowhere with no warning. And I want to share with you my tale of caution, but also just some things I've learned through the process, and if I would still recommend opening an Etsy shop in 2023. Hey guys, what's going on? I'm Wendy Jo, and this is not my normal setting for recording my tutorials and stuff on YouTube, but I am currently living in Florida with my daughter for a little bit while we wait on our first granddaughter to arrive. So I wanted to go ahead and create this video to share with you guys a little bit about our Etsy story. First, let's go back to the beginning. I started on Etsy actually it's been 18 years ago now. It was the year that they first opened. It's been about a year since they shut our shop down, and I shared the story in little tidbits on TikTok, but I never shared it on here because I educate you guys on how to set up Etsy shops, how to sell digital products, how to be successful on Etsy. And I was worried about sharing my story because I didn't want you guys to think that I am not relevant. I did create a new Etsy account, and I'm not selling on it, but I use it to do tutorials still for you guys and to stay up to date with everything that is happening on Etsy so that I could be relevant. I may end up trying to sell on Etsy again. It's very risky to do that because you have to do a lot of workarounds, have to do it under an LLC. There would be a lot of workarounds. So I haven't decided if I will ever actually do that or not. I will say that selling on Etsy is easy, and that is why so many people go to it, because it's really, everything is done for you. The advertising, the platform, like people go to Etsy to shop. My older children go to Etsy to shop for gifts for their friends, for their spouse, for their fiance, all of that kind of stuff. Like they shop there. And so people actually go there to look for things. And so it's really hard to compete with Etsy when you have your own individual website. We did shift to a regular website after Etsy shut us down. But I will tell you, it has been very difficult to grow over there because you have to spend money on advertising to get people to you unless you have a huge following on social media, which I personally have a large following on social media, but our business did not. And so we have our, original customers, our, people that still come to us for things, but getting new clientele and growing a business and scaling a business outside of Etsy takes a lot of work. So I would say, number one, I do still recommend Etsy for people getting started with their businesses. There are a couple of things that I also recommend that you do when you set up your Etsy shop. Number one is to make sure that you buy a domain that you own, because then whenever people are shopping for you, they become familiar with your domain. So if Etsy ever shuts you down, you still have your domain. People are still going to that domain to shop, and it's just not going to be on Etsy anymore, to be on your own website. So I'm going to link up everything in the description below. So if you have any questions about what I'm referring to, I will have it linked in the description. And if something is missing, just put a comment and I will give you a link to whatever I'm talking about. Okay, so I'm not going to go into a lot of details about how we became bestsellers and all of those types of things. I have videos about that on my channel, and I'm going to be creating more videos teaching you guys all of the ins and outs of Etsy and what we did to become so successful. But this video is specifically about how to not get kicked off of Etsy. Hopefully, they are still very, very, they just kick people off randomly. I will tell you that. And they hold people's money. There's a lot of people that are very unhappy with Etsy for a lot of things that they do, especially to new sellers, which, part of it is to protect the business or whatever. But anyway, let's jump into it. During the pandemic, we shifted our Etsy shop from being strictly handmade to print on demand. And we were really just trying to reach a new audience with some different things, because a lot of the things that we did were just, I don't know, I was tired of doing what we were doing. So I decided to shift and try print on demand, and immediately took off again. So we had been super successful with all of our home design decor, signs and furniture and those types of things. We did everything with reclaimed wood. We ended up having a brick and mortar as well as our Etsy shop. And we're super successful with that. But during the pandemic, we shifted. We started using print on demand, and we started doing print on demand shirts. So one of the very first things you learn getting on Etsy is about using words that are trademarked is a huge no-no, okay? And I know this, like I would never. Even the word onesie is trademarked. The word Kleenex is trademarked. So common words that we use every day to refer to multiple different products are often trademarked. Because I mean, like who goes and says, would you go get me a facial tissue, please? No, we ask for a Kleenex because that's what everybody knows, the word to be. So when you are working on Etsy, you have to be very careful, not only to not use copyrighted images and those types of things, but also not to use trademarked words, which I knew. And so when we started doing these print on demand shirts, we were trying to reach a specific audience. Now, the shirts themselves were not an infringement on anyone's copyright, trademark, anything. In the tags, we used words that at the time were not trademarked. And I'm going to tell you exactly which words we used and let you figure it out for yourself. So we were targeting the audience of people who watched Schitt's Creek because it was very popular during the pandemic. So when we created our listings with all of our gear, our shirts that were print on demand that were geared towards people who watched Schitt's Creek, we used words in the tags that at the time were not trademarked. And it's so weird because I'm going to share with you exactly what we used, because I want you to know like how this happened and how it could happen to you. So because we were targeting Schitt's Creek, we didn't use the words Schitt's Creek. Obviously, that's a no-brainer. That's obviously trademarked, right? We use words like David by itself, Rose by itself, apothecary by itself, all real words, right? And we had bestsellers, and this large company came in and created their own website outside of Etsy, and they trademarked all of those words. They trademarked David Rose, they trademarked Rose Apothecary, and those types of things. And so then what they did, rather than sending us a cease and desist, which we really weren't even infringing on their rights, is what I don't understand. Like, we were not using even the phrases. They were individual words divided out in tags, if that makes sense. But anyway, instead of reaching out to us and saying, hey, we've trademarked all of these words. We noticed that when we search on Etsy, it pulls up your listings. You have bestsellers, which is really, that was their beef. We had bestsellers. Could you please remove these tags from your listings? No, they went straight to Etsy, and they didn't just file like a trademark infringement on one product. They literally went into every listing we had and put in a complaint for a trademark infringement on every single listing where we had used the words. And so this happened, and I immediately, then they emailed us a letter saying, so-and-so had happened. And I immediately went in and removed all of the words and emailed the company back, their lawyer, and said, hey, we're a small business, had no intentions of infringing on your trademarked words. If you look at the dates that we posted these and used these and the dates that you filed for the trademark, we actually had these listed before you ever trademarked the words or phrases. Could you kindly remove those strikes on Etsy because it can affect our business? They refused. But Etsy hadn't done anything at this point, so I wasn't stressed. I removed all the tags from everything and went on about my way, kept making our money. We were making 5 figures a month profit with that business. And then out of nowhere, 4 or 5 months later, we get notification from Etsy that our shop has had multiple trademark infringements and has been shut down, suspended forever. We can never reopen another store. Done, over with. So of course I immediately reached out to Etsy and said, look, here is the timeline. Here is when we listed everything. Here's when they trademarked everything. Here is their letter. Here is my response to their letter. This is, showing them that I handled this as professionally as I knew how. And really at this point still feeling like I had done nothing wrong, because number one, the words I was using were very common words, and number two, like we were using the words before they ever trademarked them. And it was almost impossible to reach anyone at Etsy. And when we finally did, they would not even have a conversation with us. They did not care that we had been with them since the very first year they opened. They literally did not care. They shut us down, said, do not ever attempt to open another store again. And that was it. So since then, we have done all of our other businesses and we are perfectly fine, but we have never gone back in and attempted to start a new Etsy. I am this close to trying, just because I want to see if there's a workaround, because I'm always up for a challenge. So let me know if you want to see the documentation on that. But that is our story of how we got shut down. So we went from making 6 figures a year to 0 with that business, which is why I teach you to earn multiple streams of income, to have set up multiple ways to be earning income, because if something crazy like that happens and Etsy shuts you down, you will at least have another stream of income. It is also why I tell you to make sure to have a domain name so that your current customers at least will know where to find you and you can quickly set up a shop. We used Equid to set up our shop. I will link up a link to that down below, just so that you know where to go, because a lot of people aren't familiar with Equid. It's my favorite though, because of how inexpensive it is, and it's super user friendly, and you can do digital downloads with that. Not with the free version. There is a free version that you can use, so that's great, but then the first version up, which I think is like $15 a month, is where you can do digital downloads. And so we could sell digital products on there, which I wasn't at the time selling a ton of digital products on Etsy. I was doing some on a different site, but I had just really started building that digital business when they shut us down. And when they shut you down, they shut down every store you own. So we had 3 stores and they shut all of them down. So we not only lost our 6-figure a year business with our print on demand, but we also lost our digital download store and our other store. So let this be fair warning. Etsy does not play fair. I still do teach you how to set up your accounts on Etsy, how to sell digital downloads on Etsy, how to sell print on demand on Etsy, because it is a very good way to make money. But you just need to be aware that at any point in time, someone could come in and decide to come after you because you have a bestseller and get you shut down. So if this was helpful, let me know. Let me know your questions in the comments. I'll be happy to respond. Make sure and hit that subscribe button and turn on the notifications, because I will be posting lots more about this story, as well as just how you can earn passive income both on and off of Etsy. Thanks so much for joining me, and I will talk to you soon.